Right, guys. Um, Here we are. Welcome back to the stream. It has been a long time, we know. Tonight, unfortunately, it's only me. It's the middle of the week, and obviously, with work and all of that stuff, Dev couldn't be here, so it's just me. But we'll try and make it work and see what we can do here. Obviously, um, still you can drop your comments, you can talk to me and ask questions, and I'll try my best to answer them and see what we can do. In the meantime, guys, yeah, a 5-0 win, obviously. What a game. I'm gonna wait a couple of minutes more for people to start joining, and then we'll see if we can start talking about stuff. um right. Right, guys. So there's not much to discuss in terms of the second half. I think Barca kind of did their job in the first half, and I will say that while this was a good performance, and I would say that Barca have played really well this evening. At the same time, this Athletic Club team is just not what it used to be. When you think of Athletic Club, especially when you think about Ernesto Valverde and his teams, even going back to the Barcelona team that Ernesto Valverde coached, I think this is not what you have in mind. This team that we face tonight, this team that we actually faced earlier in the season as well, they don't really resemble the actual Athletic Club. With that, that's the bit of context that obviously needs to be said, but it doesn't make this win any lesser than it actually is. A 5-0 win against any team at this level will obviously be quite an achievement. And now we do have to wait for whoever it is that we're going to face in the final between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. People do seem to believe that, and I see the comments. Yeah, people do seem to believe that Atletico Madrid will be our opponent in the final. But let's wait and see, because Real Madrid, as bad as they have been, and even with that defeat to Real Madrid in mind, they have been quite poor overall, and they have lost Mbappe, if I'm not wrong. So it it will be quite interesting to see what they can do. But I do feel they've been somehow trying to find their footing, somehow trying to um, finally establish some sort of a foundation that Xabi Alonso can do. If it can work on, if he stays long enough, that is. But that's a different story. Let's focus on today's game, guys. Obviously, we can talk about Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid a bit more if you really want to. I have seen the comments, so I will address them, obviously. But as of right now, let's just focus on this game and see what we can do. Um, so the first half, let's start there. Let's start with the first half because that's the more interesting one. The second half, I do think that Athletic Club were a broken team. I think they were mostly like a ghost or shells, just non-existent, just kind of moving through the phases and trying to not to concede any more goals. And Ernesto Valverde was utterly and completely defeated. I tweeted as much on X as well, and I do think that that was the case. Obviously, we do tend to forget that the psychological part of football is equally as important sometimes. So this was exactly that in the flesh. But let's focus on the first half, because the first half was more interesting, I would say. The first half was where actually things were happening. I would say we had to work a bit harder to get to a point where we can create something. And I even tweeted at the beginning of the game that it wasn't really working well for us, because we were playing in a 3-4-3 in possession, right? So you had three at the back, with Kunde kind of being the third center back on the right side, and Balde was the more advanced fullback on the left side. And he did create a bit of a four line of four people in the middle third, where you had Frankie Pedri, and obviously you had the third midfielder, sometimes peeling wide, as well. And then on the left side, you had Alejandro Balde keeping that width and then advancing into the more attacking areas. But then Athletic Club had a very simple approach, I want to say, to these things, because what you essentially had was a 4-4-2 situation where they kind of decided to be very narrow in their positioning, and the goal there was basically just to limit what Barca can do down the middle, right? Because they were in their minds, and I think rightfully so, um, in their minds, it was all about stopping the ball to getting to Frankie De Jong and Pedri in the middle of the pitch, and then if you can do that, obviously, Barca will struggle to progress, because we do know that Barca's build-up mechanisms are not always perfect, and that was on showcase tonight until it finally clicked, and until the other team obviously started to kind of fall apart. Um, yeah, as I've said, guys, and I did say this, but no one was actually on the stream. I tried to wait a bit before I started explaining, but yes, Dev couldn't make it tonight, so he'll be joining us on the next game, hopefully. But these middle of the week streams are really difficult, and as committed as Dev is, it is usually for these kind of games, it's very early in the morning for him, like 2 3 4 in the a.m. in the morning, that he has to get up to actually watch or record these streams and watch games, and in the middle of the week, especially when these games are 7 p.m. UK, or 8 p.m. Europe, that means that by the time the game is done and we get to record, Dev has to go to work, because for him it's 9 a.m. in the morning and he has to be at work. And he has a very important role at his job, with a lot of responsibility and a lot of meetings. And those meetings, often enough, do happen around 9 a.m. just as he starts work. So he couldn't make it tonight, unfortunately, but we did decide that we're going to try and do this. If one of us can't do it, the other one's going to try and cover on his own. So this stream is going to be a bit shorter, guys. I'm going to try and do half an hour if there's interest. If you guys want your questions answered, this is the time to do it, because since Dev is not here, I will mostly focus on what you guys say and what you guys ask me. So feel free to do so. Feel free to let me know if you have any more questions, and I will focus on them. If not, I will talk through the game and discuss some of the performances tonight, and then we'll just close it off. Um, oh, Van Lee, good to see you back. um, Yeah, I can't hide until we drop five loves. I'm not sure I'm following Van Lee, but yeah, please do explain. And but yeah, anyway, it's just me tonight. So you guys bombard me with any scouting and tactical questions that you might have, because I can focus on those a bit more than the game itself. There's not much to say about the game. That's what. That's why. But yes, let's go back to the first half, and why our build up was so rigid and so slow. It's because Athletic did have a good idea, the idea that many teams have. They were like, okay, Barca want to get the ball to Pedri, get the ball to Frankie De Jong, and if they do, Athletic Club want to make sure that they receive the ball in the least advantageous positions on the pitch as possible. So what they did was they just narrowed their block, and they made sure that Frankie De Jong and Pedri were receiving the ball with, I want to say, um, 4 or 5 or 6 players surrounding them at all times. So that's why it was very difficult for Barca to progress the ball, because whenever Frankie and Pedri received the ball, all they could do is recycle it to the wings to Balde, for example, because that left side of the pitch was where Barca attacked the most, and I will come to that a bit later. But that was how we initially tried to play an attack, or they could have cycled the ball backwards towards Eric Garcia and Pau Cubarsi. So Athletic had a good idea, but then once the first domino falls and Barca get that taste of blood or sniff, the first sniff of blood, if you will, I think that that's where the machine starts going. And once the machine gets going, that's it, right? You just fall apart, and you can't help but concede goals. And then the more Barca attack, the more the momentum is on their side. I think we are that kind of a team where you just simply have um, this mentality. When the momentum is on our side, we're just simply unstoppable. And that's exactly what happened tonight, and that's exactly what keeps happening for Barca multiple times, I would say. And that's why you see so many games where Barca win 3 or 4 nil, or they just struggle to score one goal and they barely score a goal. And then once they do, because take that game against Espanyol, for example, we struggled against Espanyol so much, right? I think it was John Garcia who did a lot of the hero work to keep us in the game. But then all of a sudden, Barca score one goal, and immediately the second one follows. Now, obviously, it could be circumstantial, but at the same time, that's the way Barca operate, right? It's just about making that first step, making scoring that first goal. Once that happens, a weight kind of lifts off of us, and then Barca are unshackled and they can just go and steamroll teams. Um, but then why is that a problem? It can be a problem because, for example, Athletic Club had a good first opening 20 minutes or so. Had they done more with that time when we were in the back foot, when they had all the intensity, when they had all the momentum, well, not all of it, but they had a decent amount of it, then the game can change because that was their window. But once they slipped for the first time, it was just a slippery slope all the way down. It was a downward spiral, and they couldn't really contain us anymore. Because that's why you need to. If you can get Barca on the ropes, if you can get Barca to track back, to defend, to be on the back foot, you need to generate something out of it, right? Because if you do, then you have real chance of retaining the momentum, which is equally important for yourself, but it's also important because you don't give it back to Barcelona. So tonight it was just about Athletic Club not being able to do anything with their momentum, and once the momentum had shifted, it was all done. Right? It was all over. All right. So before I move on to, I will just take a couple questions, and then we can keep talking about the game and some performances. Can we kiss her? Right. Okay. Um. Let's see. Right. Can we kiss our CB signing goodbye for the winter? So Laporta eating ice cream in the stands seems unbothered. I think so. I think it was it was always gonna be a center back or a full back, and it seems that Cancelo is gonna be the choice. And I don't think this was like choosing Cancelo or choosing a fullback signing over a center back signing. It was just that okay, the market is what it is, and Barca's finances are what Barca's finances are. So we just went for what was attainable to us at this very moment, and that was Cancelo on a lower wage. I don't know how much. Obviously, reports do say it is going to be a very much decreased number. I'm not sure how much or if that's going to make a significant impact on our wage bill, whatnot. But it does seem that Cancelo is going to be the or not free, but a loan option on lower wages or a cheaper loan option, because we can't really go for someone like Schlotterbeck, because Schlotterbeck or Bastoni even. I'm not sure who else was linked. I can remember those two guys off the top of my mind, but neither of them seem attainable in winter. Um, so I would say yes, Van Lee, the CB signing is not going to happen. Not now, at least. Now, going into the summer, it gets difficult as well because we will have to sign number nine, right? I have seen reports of Lewandowski maybe going to the Saudi or whatnot. And even if he doesn't go, even if he stays until the summer, the chances are okay, maybe then in the summer he goes. And if that happens, then Barca need to go into the market and say, okay, we need a number nine pronto. Can we really buy someone like Schlotterbeck, someone like Bastoni on top of a number nine? Because I remember the number nine, whoever it is, It has to be someone who can replace Lewandowski, not someone of Ferran Torres's level. And I don't mean any disrespect to Ferran, but he is who he is, right? So I would say that Barca getting a new number nine, they will have to get someone who's actually going to be a step up from Ferran Torres. Because if he's not, why bother, right? You can always have Ferran as your starting number nine, and then you can rotate, I don't know, Rafinha at the nine, or even Dani Olmo as a false nine. There wouldn't be any immediate need for a new number nine if the number nine doesn't really move Barca forward in any other way, right? So I would imagine Barca would want someone who is a step up from Ferran Torres, not necessarily a new Lewandowski region, because obviously we can't. More than likely, we won't be able to buy an elite number nine. I have seen reports of Vlahovic, and guys, I will publish a full piece on Vlahovic, so you will see what I mean. The guy is decent, but he's also not someone who's going to move mountains for us. The good news is, however, that flex system amplifies goal scoring to such an extent that everyone can score. Anyone can score goals in this system. So Vlahovic will score goals if he comes. Um, that's the good side. The bad side, or the bad news is, I would say that he's not going to be the striker to kind of mark Barcelona's near future. In my mind, at least, he's not that. But you know what? Never say never. Maybe Flick can fully um, transform Lahovic into someone that we need. Um, right. Let's see. What else do we got? How are you feeling about Bernal? That's the tricky one because at the moment Bernal should be playing more than he is, and we have seen good signs, right? Like lately, we have seen Bernal play in a couple of games, play well, and even kind of show us those little things that we absolutely adored when he was fully fit back before the injury, obviously. And that kind of gave me hope. It really did. So much so that I do have a piece on Bernal as well. It's I'm just waiting to for the right time to actually um publish it, but I'm still hopeful because Bernal's profile and the way the Bernal kind of slots seamlessly into this Barcelona midfield, it gives me hope. It tells me that okay, the profile above anything else is a massive win. Now, in what state does Bernal come back? How much of his ceiling has remained intact throughout this injury and recovery process? And why exactly is he not playing more than he is? Even tonight, right? Was there a case for Bernal to get more, or it's just it's kind of weird. It's a bit weird that after being declared medically, physically fit to play, he's still struggling for game time, right? Because you can't tell me that someone like Bernal, even if you're being super cautious with him, which Barcelona obviously are, which Flick obviously is, and rightfully so, but even with that said, you can't tell me that there is no room for him to get more game time than he is getting at the moment. So that would be my concern at the minute. In terms of his profile and his ability, I do believe that is at the required level, or at least it's the right profile. Now the level obviously we'll see. In my mind, yes, the high level that we would need him to be at is still very much attainable. Um, so we'll see what happens. But that's I would need to be able for me to be able to tell you, okay, this is the actual state of Bernal. I would really love to see more of him because what I've seen from him, I've liked, but the fact still remains we're not seeing enough. We're not seeing enough for us to say, okay, this guy is so spectacular, he should be playing more because there is obviously something behind it. Obviously, with Gavi's situation in mind and being so fresh still, I think Flick is just not taking any chances. But then again, Bernal's never going to get match sharp and never going to get back into his flow if he doesn't play regularly. That's the problem. Right, let's move on, guys, and see what else. Thoughts on Rashford continuity with Amorim sacking, all the hiring. What would the price point be? Will he forced to stay? Seems unlikely for United. Cunha also took his number 10 shirt. Yeah, the Amarim sacking is it's kind of rough. Obviously, I don't follow Man United as much as I don't even want to say that I should because they have been a very hard watch for a while, and I do think, and I said this before, I do think that Man United's problems run deeper than the coach, and people will say, okay, Xavi can fix them. Yeah, I know. I would be excited to see Xavi back in the coaching seat, and especially in the Premier League. But can Man United actually handle someone of Xavi's personality? Because remember, Xavi has a big mouth, and Xavi knows what he wants. So, and those two things, when you put those things and you put Xavi in a environment such as Man United, what they currently are, I don't know if that's going to end well, right? When it comes to Rashford, I've seen conflicting reports. I've seen reports of the state Flick wants him, and I've seen reports that state, oh no, he's way too expensive. Barca want to prioritize other things. In my mind, Rashford is always going to be useful. At the moment, I wouldn't say that he's a starter because when everyone's fit and firing, he's not displacing Rafinha. He's not displacing Lamine Yamal, obviously. Now, as a number nine, he struggles a lot. He really, really struggles a lot. Um, and his performances at number nine have been on Ferran Torres level ish, I would say, when we have seen him down the middle so far. So far. I'm not saying there's no potential for him to play down the middle. He can. He has done in the past. Um, you can read our piece on him. And I've detailed everything you need to know about Rashford number nine in the full piece. So I would urge you um to go read that. However, for Barca, it hasn't worked out with Rashford down the middle. That's all I'm gonna say at the moment. Um, but I would keep him as a rotational piece because Rashford will always give you output. Rashford may not be an every game state, every game, every matchup, every moment kind of player, but he will always give you output. Like you can count on Rashford to create goals, right? Even scoring or assisting them. And I think having that kind of a player who can sometimes score the impossible or do the impossible when it comes to output is immensely valuable. Um, yeah. So let's see what else you guys have. Barca was in second gear most of the match, and then we do have a counter to that, which says because Athletic was on seventh gear, and I think both of you guys are absolutely correct. And I tweeted the same thing throughout the game because Barca were good. Barca were actually playing well, and for a brief spell, you could see that we were in full flow. You could see that we would tear them apart. We were just not really trying too much, but we were still causing them all sorts of trouble. But yes, you are right, absolutely right. I think that um, I feel like we're just not in the game. We're just not in the game at all. And I don't think they've been themselves for the longest time. That's kind of the thing. I would say that this is not just tonight. Even when we played them earlier in the season, even when we played them, actually, even when we played them for the last, I don't know, 3, 4, I want to say 5 games. What was the head to head? Because I feel like we've beaten them for the last couple of times. Maybe we lost once in what was it? Was it the Super Cup as well? No, it was something else. It was something else that we lost that we got defeated. I can't remember now, but I think we won like 3 or 4 or 5 games against the club lately. Um, so they're not really themselves. And this now Flick has, I think we've managed to get 5 clean sheets in a row or 4 clean sheets in a row. I don't remember exactly. I'm gonna check the results actually. One, two, three, four. Yeah, 5 clean sheets in a row. Although to be fair, tonight Athletic Club should have scored at least one as well. I think they had like one or two big chances, but they were just so out of it, so not in the game, so not themselves that they couldn't even score one of these massive big chances. Um, right, let's see what else. Van Lee. I've been wanting to ask you this for weeks. Spain play Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia in the first two group stage matches. Ferran may leave the group stage with 4 or 5 goals. How does that change things? um, change things for whom? For Barca. Ferran may leave the group stage with 4 or 5 goals. Ferran is such a vexing player to me. I think similarly to Rashford, he will always be useful. But I think Rashford is at least Rashford's ceiling and whatever Rashford can do is I think his potential is much higher. For Rashford, I just think that him, Jared Martin, and Eric Garcia are always going to be at this level, right? The squad depth kind of level, and that doesn't mean they're useless. I like all three of those players. I think they have been great for Barca. All three. Gerard Martin said left centre back, outstanding. I think just what we needed. Um, Eddie Garcia deputizing all over the pitch, even in number 6. I wrote a whole piece on Eddie Garcia because I was his biggest critic because people were always clumping Eddie Garcia with Frankie De Jong and comparing those two, and I'm like, okay, there's no comparison, but that doesn't mean that Eddie Garcia has no value. He has. Um, but for me, Ferran is going to be in that group as well, where you just can't. I can't see Ferran being the elite starting number 9 for Barca for multiple years if Barca have any aspirations, and they do have aspirations. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that Ferran scoring goals will change much, if anything at all, or should change much, because you have a player essentially who doesn't duel well, who doesn't find space in the box that well. He can exploit space, right? Ferran can run into space. Ferran can score these systematic goals, right? These goals that are built on mechanisms and repetitions. Ferran will score those goals. If you give Ferran repetitions, he will score goals. Simple as that. But you can always see both his flaws and his strengths at the same time. There's never going to be a Ferran performance where he's gold standard across the board. I just don't think that he has that ceiling in him. Right, Van Lee. Um, Lots of questions from you, my boy. But let's see, let's see. I'll take a couple more. Because you know what, you've earned it. You've earned it, my man. This will be Volcanic for the fan base, but you sent Rashford back and going for Nico again. Oh my goodness. Volcanic doesn't begin to explain or describe the reaction that this would cause, my friend. Um, and that has nothing to do with Nico, actually. Nico as a player, because Nico as a player and Nico as a profile, I still maintain that Nico as a profile would still be useful. I mean, had we signed him, yes, who knows what would have happened, right? Maybe Rafinha never has that season of dreams if Nico's there. Um, Maybe Barca ultimately don't win anything with Nico there. Maybe they win everything. We never know, right? Life and football are funny that way. But Nico as a player, I still like Nico as a player. He's kind of, and he would complement Lamine Yamal. I think that the bond and the chemistry would just grow. And I think that Nico, had he not done what he had done, he would have fit right into this Barca squad. I think the youth, the energy, the Spanish slash Catalan connections, the national. Obviously, I'm referencing the national team. I think even the play style. I think Nico could have been something at Barca. I still think Nico's ceiling at Barca could have been really high. Now, obviously, you can't blame him for choosing what he chose. I mean, choosing his his childhood club, his um, you know, that's just who they are. The Basque are like that, and that's no surprise. No shade on them because that's admirable. And in today's world, it's also quite rare. So I don't necessarily blame him for staying. I just blame him for the way this whole saga turned out, right? Because there was this whole drama, there was this uncertainty, and then there was certainty that he was coming, and then you reveal that you're staying in the way that you have revealed. I mean, just I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think that was the right move. Um, and now I do think he shut that door like forever, most likely. I mean, never say never. You can't say forever in football, but yeah. Excuse me. Schlotterbeck or Bastoni, definitely summer signings. Yes, I would agree. Which one do you prefer beside Kubarsi with the context of Martin's emergence and Araujo uncertainty? I'm always going to go for Schlotterbeck over Bastoni. I know people have reservations about both of those things. The system with one of them, injuries with other. I get it. To me, Schlotterbeck on his day, and not just on his day, many times Schlotterbeck is like among the very best. Like he fits Barca. Like him and Kubarsi, I think they would form a good partnership. Obviously, people say, okay, but Schlotterbeck is injured a lot. I know. I mean, yes, it is a concern. But between those two players, looking strictly at profiles, looking strictly at what I like about them, I would go for Schlotterbeck. And but I would also agree, Van Lee, that he's a summer signing. I don't know how expensive he would be, but yeah, I know. Um, I would like him. Let's before I take more Van Lee questions, I'm gonna take one from Layla. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Hey Dom, I think the team will sign a striker, winger, and center back. Ooh, that's very optimistic. But two will be cheap and one will be expensive. That would make sense. Yes. How do you think it will go? For me, it's expensive CB, cheap winger, cheap striker. Um. So here's the thing. Yes, I think cheap winger is correct. I don't think we'll splash for a winger. If we do sign a winger, it might as well be Rashford. That could be an option. Now, expensive center back, I can see that. If it's a Schlotterbeck or Bastoni kind of signing, yes. Obviously, I'm not sure what their contract situations are and how much they would cost, but yes. But then if Lewandowski leaves, that brings me back. I'm not sure if you've seen Layla, if you've seen what I've been talking about a bit earlier. If Lewandowski leaves and Barca want to sign another striker, I think they would go for someone who's a step up from Ferran Torres. Now, can you get a step up from Ferran Torres for cheap? It is possible, but Barca won't. But then in that case, you wouldn't really chase a big name because I don't know if there are big enough names that create enough chatter and enough excitement in the fan base that are cheap, right? That you can get without breaking the bank, right? So, yeah, I don't think that you can sign an elite nine for little money. Um, and that's kind of the problem because if you don't have Lewandowski anymore, then you're kind of stuck with that cheap striker and Ferran Torres. Is that enough to take Barca to whatever heights they aspire to get? I don't know. I think when Lee is saying if Ferran leaves the World Cup as a Golden Boot winner, what changes? Ah, yeah. That actually makes sense. Van Lee, is this what you meant? If so, yeah, I would. It does. I mean, but would Barca be open to selling Ferran Torres? There's a lot of amortization as well in that deal. I think we still owe Man City some money or something like that. I don't know how that works. I'm not sure how much money we're talking about. But yes, I would say that if that happens, then probably yeah, Ferran's value would go higher. Obviously would. Um, but would Barca be willing to sell him? Because don't get me wrong, Ferran, while he's not going to be a starter, I don't think he's useless. I think he has his uses, and it's good to have him for these kind of games, right? Where you know the opposition is at the required level for Ferran to shine, and I think that's good to have always. Um, let's see one more question here. Nico coming also lowers the aggregate age of the team. A lot of how young and bouncy we are. Youth matters in sports. Nico plays both wings. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things that Nico would bring, but as Van Lee says, that would be a volcanic transfer. I just don't see I just don't see how Barca would go back for him in the first place. Even if they do, how the fan base would. I mean, the fans, we as fans, Barca fans, are very reactive, I would say. So Nico comes in, we all hate him. Nico starts playing really well, and everything turns. That's the way football works. I think people would then learn to accept him again. If Rashford leaves, would you prefer Nico or Savinho, Lamine, Rafinha, Savinho switching? Yeah, so I would agree. I think Savinho is like, see, when I did my big wingers piece, Savinho was in the piece. Interestingly enough, he was in there, even though my data couldn't capture him. But for some reason, I couldn't get Scout to get me data for Savinho. I just couldn't get it. So I ultimately just gave him a footnote, but excluded him from the full data analysis. But he was in there, and interestingly enough, wait, who else was in there? I I know I talked about. I think I talked about Doku, or who was it? I think it was Jeremy Doku was, I think, very high on that list. But then I do think that Savinho has, maybe even has, a higher ceiling than Doku. So yes, I would agree. I would go for something like that. I would absolutely love it. Let's see what else do we have. Um Vlahovic has a lot of swag and self belief. I like his energy and definitely profile to Ferran. Yeah, yeah. I think Vlahovic, one thing that he can do is that, right? He can be your reference sometimes, but he's clunky, and he operates on instinct a lot. And sometimes that makes for great goals, but then he's very inconsistent in the way that he scores. Um, I won't spoil too much because I really want you guys to read the piece. I'll try and publish it tomorrow. I really want you to read the piece. But there's pros and cons to this signing. Not earth shattering signing, but still decent. Um, as a Croatian, what's your relation with Serbia? Vlahovic, Serbian, right? Same country as Djokovic. Yes, Vlahovic is. Yeah, yeah. And Serbia, I mean, I don't have any problems with any Serbian people. I don't. I think the war was a long time ago, and while my parents and their parents, um, I mean, that generation still obviously remembers the war, and obviously the war has left them with some, repercussions, the way wars do. Um, but Serbia and Croatia, at the moment, I don't know, the relationship between those two countries is a bit tricky. I don't want to go into that too much because it's politics, and I don't want to do politics here. So sorry, but yeah, I like Vlahovic, and I mean, I like some of the things that he brings as a player, and his nationality doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I don't think he's the ideal signing. Um, Haaland misses, everyone does. I think every elite striker misses sitters. That's just the way it happens. And the way that you have to look at big chances missed is not at face value. You have to, because the best. Why is it always that you see the very best strikers miss the most chances? Let's see if we big chances missed. If someone can pull the stats, I don't know. Um, in the top five, you have Mohamed Salah, Erling Haaland, Nicolas Jackson, Alexander Isak. So it's usually, more often than not, the very best strikers on the planet will top that category of big chances missed, because the worst strikers don't really find themselves in those moments to miss those big chances in the first place. If that makes sense. So the ability to be in a position to miss a big chance, or just to be in a big chance, is a skill in and of itself, and that's why that stat is misleading. But to your point, Layla, yes, I mean, yes, he does, and many players do. elite players do. So I would say that it's not something that's completely that's unheard of, right? It does happen. It will happen, right, guys? If you do have any other questions, let me know, and I will be ending the stream very soon because it's just myself. It's hard to talk a lot when without Dev. He does bring a lot to the stream, and I'm sure you guys all miss him as well. But he will be back. He will be back hopefully next week. As I said, these midweek games are very difficult on both my and especially his schedule. His schedule is even more brutal than mine, and he's in a different time zone. He's from Sydney, and for him, it's now 9 a.m. in the morning, which is not a bad time to record if you're at home. But if you have work, which he obviously does, at 9 a.m. he has to be in the office, right? So it's impossible for him to record at this time. But do let me know if you still enjoyed just seeing my ugly mug here and just myself here. Um, because if you don't mind either of us, so me or Dev, doing these things solo, if the other guy can't do it, we will keep doing them because the alternative is obviously missing these games. We've been missing for a while, guys, and I do owe you an explanation because we decided to take a little break over the festive periods, and I was away on my honeymoon for a while as well. Um, and we just decided, okay, we're gonna lay low and recharge. And this will be this year, 2026. It will. It's now or never. We're gonna do a final push. We're gonna give our all, guys, and we're gonna try and make it. Right. We're gonna try and grow this thing to much more than it is, and hopefully by the end of the season, you will see a very much improved and bigger Barca football, and that is our dream. And you guys here, let me see how many people, around 1,000 viewers. I think that's a very decent number, especially considering that we've been away for so long. To have 1,000 people still tune in, I think that's fantastic. So thank you very much, and do let me know in the comments now if you can, if you would rather we skip games that we can't both do together, or would you rather have um, either me or Dev solo doing these things solo when the other guy can't make it? Because tonight we decided, okay, we're gonna try it with just me because I can make it, Dev can't. But maybe next week it'll be the other way around where I can't make it and Dev has to jump in. Would you be okay with these things happening? Um, Obviously, it would only happen for midweek games occasionally when we can't make it, both of us. Unfortunately, that means Champions League games would have to be covered either in this format or in some different format. Let us know if you have any ideas, obviously. Um, in the meantime, one more question from Van Lee. Thank you for the questions, Leila and Van Lee, especially, and I don't know how to pronounce Alfreda Ramoni. Ramoni, thank you guys for the questions. I do really appreciate it. I was afraid I was gonna have to just talk into the camera with no questions for 40 minutes, but you guys gonna save me. Thank you. Do you see Gavi plugged back in as a 10 or in the pivot? See, before when Flick was first announced, I immediately we did a big analysis on Flick, like a preview of his coaching and coaching philosophy for YouTube. And back then I said Gavi is the perfect Flick number 10. And people back then were like, Gavi at 10, he's wasted there. And yeah, I know he has the ability to play deep and be super effective. Gavi can be the Pedri of this team in the absence of Pedri. Gavi can even be a Frankie de Jong in the absence of Frankie de Jong. But I think Gavi can also very much be a number 10 from a fancy Flick. And I think Flick likes him as a 10. He likes his energy. He likes his bite. He likes how Gavi has attacking instincts that people don't really see. But they're there, very much there. So I think there's a possibility for Gavi to play as a 10. But I don't know if you have noticed, guys, maybe not tonight as much, where you see Fermin Lopez, who's not as deep or maybe not as connected when we play with him as number 10. But Barca have been playing a 4-3-3 or a hybrid or a variation of 4-3-3 for a while now. Um, Two number eights instead of a clear cut number 10 in many games recently. Many, many games. So I think that if Gavi is to come back in a obviously there's a lot of ifs there. If he recovers, if he retains his level, if Flick continues with the 4-3-3, a lot of ifs there. But Gavi in a 4-3-3 with Pedri, with Frankie, it can work. Um, but anyway, guys, if there's no more questions, I would I would I think it would be time for me um, to shut this down. And I think it was quite quite a good turnout in the end. 1,000 people from Twitter or X, a couple of people. Sorry, I can't speak for some reason. A couple of people from Twitch and a couple of people from YouTube. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. As I've said, it's only me tonight, but we will do our best to show up as a duo more often than not. Most of the time, I would say. Sometimes, work and life get in the way, and I'm sure you understand. And thank you for understanding. Thank you for rejoining us here after such a long time, because we've not really been in it, right? I'm gonna leave the link to our blog there. Please do check it out. There's some big pieces on that blog that we published recently, and I'm going to publish some pieces tomorrow as well. So please, guys, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of this structure as well, the solo structure. And as always, guys, stay safe. Thank you very much for watching, and we